welcome to our Infinity Night series. Tonight, I have Elaine, and she is a certified yoga therapist who helps people living with chronic pain and health challenges move with greater ease and rebuild trust in their own bodies. From a young age, she felt drawn to helping others and making a meaningful impact. At first, she believed a career in biology research would lead her there. But during college, as her yoga practice deepened, she realized she wanted to work more directly with people and support them in their lived experience. After earning her Bachelor of Science in biology, Elaine made an unconventional choice. Instead of pursuing a traditional research path, she trained to become a yoga teacher and never looked back. Thanks for being with us. Today, she integrates her scientific background with the principles of yoga to offer evidence-informed therapeutic practices that help her clients feel better in their bodies and lives. Welcome to our talk. Excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am just excited to share any experience that I have in helping young people, high school students, even college students, or even those in their 20s, that what they decide now doesn't have to be end all be all.
Yeah, let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about the twists and turns that you've experienced in your professional career, starting out in one thing and then really finding this deep passion for another thing.
Yeah, so I come from a family, very academically oriented family. They're either in physics or engineering or computer science, and always most of them have more than just not just, but more than bachelor's degree. So it was kind of the expected pathway for us in our family and our generation, my sister and I and our cousins. So um, and I did have interest in the sciences. I had interest in biology ever since about in middle school, and I thought that was what I wanted to do and be when I grow up and graduate college. I did study biology in college, and it was there when I got exposed to what it would be like to be in a research environment that I thought I wanted to go into. I was able to have an opportunity to conduct research alongside with professors, something that not many undergraduate students get to do unless they get into graduate school. But the college I went to was very focused on the sciences and very great at cultivating students who are well trained in doing research even as an undergrad. So I had an experience of that as well as a summer internship in a research institution. That was when I realized the day-to-day life of a biology researcher is not as, I don't know, idealistic as I thought it would be. I thought I can do research, make a great discovery, change lives, and make something that really matters. But eventually I realized that it was very much a day-to-day grind. And not that you can't make differences, but the difference is that you can make in these kind of fields tend to be very slow, very, very indirect. And I wanted to do something where I can really make an impact directly for people. It was about in my junior year in high school that I got exposed to yoga. I was curious at a new yoga studio that opened down the street. So I dragged my mom in with me for her first class. And she was very willing participant as well. And since then, I just kept going. It was throughout high school, it was a way for me to handle a lot of the stress that a junior and senior in high school could face, with the upcoming exams, SATs, college applications, all of that, the future just looming ahead of you. So that was what really helped me manage a lot of that stress. And I continued practicing yoga throughout college. I actually would practice yoga in my own dorm room when I have the chance as a way to, again, just to handle the stress of being in a different environment, away from family, and a lot of stress that just comes with being in college, the studying and all of that. So it was kind of a combination of a lot of factors. The same time that I was realizing maybe I didn't want to go down this previously laid out path of biology research and this growing passion for yoga that I decided after I graduated from college to just do a yoga teacher training. It's the foundational yoga teacher training is 200 hours. So I was like, I'll just try and see, and I can always go back to school. And it was a very, very difficult decision because all of my peers, everyone around me, they're either going to grad school or they are getting hired at these high tech companies. So my professors and my peers, they're like, where are you going for school? Or where are you working after this? And I was like, I am going to do a yoga teacher training. And that was very different. It was very unexpected, especially since the college I went to is definitely very STEMs focused. So it was a very unexpected thing of someone to graduate from that college and then go on to do something completely different. Um, so there was that pressure and stress absolutely of, okay, I need to make this work. If I want to be a yoga teacher, I need to make it work. So kind of from one stress of one kind to another kind of stress. Then ever since doing that 200 yoga teacher training, I just really I just fell in love with teaching yoga and continue teaching and continue teaching. And it wasn't easy. It was definitely very challenging because I don't know if a lot of people know, but yoga teachers, when they teach in studios, they don't get paid all too much. So I had to really hustle and I would teach that. Back then I was living in San Francisco Bay Area, so I was going everywhere. I would go, I would teach at like 6 to 7 studios a week, sometimes 3 different locations a day. So I was going everywhere to make it work.
Thanks for sharing all that. I want to know what what it was about the first, the lab and the research. It sounds like
Mm,
to me that it was really you were looking for a connection with others that
hmm.
seemed more real. Would you say that that was part of it for you, that being in a lab and compiling research, although important, right? You are participating in a bigger idea that you're participating in long term for, but there's this day to day connection with other humans that, I could see as a yoga instructor. I've taken yoga classes, but you're really helping people move through issues that are stuck in their body, the pain, the joints, that you're adding to their life currently.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think you're right on the point with the piece about connection. It was, besides, of course, my peers and students and colleagues, besides that, it can be quite lonely work. And the type of biology research I did was we used live cell cultures, and they need to be timed and fed and taken care of in a very certain way. So my schedule was fully tied down to in 2 hours, I need to go in and feed them and rotate them, make sure the temperature is happy so that they're happy. And then it's also a lot of repetitive work because, of course, with research, 99.9% of the time, you're testing out a hypothesis, an educated guess, if you will. Most of the time, it's not going to turn out the way you want it to. It's going to fail. And 0.01% of the time, that's when you actually get something and can publish paper. So it's a little bit of both of just, it's quite isolating and lonely. And the fact that you're kind of very tied down to certain aspect of the work that's repetitive and you get so sucked into the daily monotonous routine that sometimes you forget what you're actually working on. um
Yeah, I could see that. Like
yeah.
it feels like maybe your life is on a timer and you have to be just like everything counts towards this.
Yes.
Follow-up question.
Hmm.
Could you share, as you're sharing a response to the first question, what do you think a student themselves could find helpful for deciding? You have the experience, you've been
Hmm.
through it. What do you
Hmm.
think a student could really utilize and decide for themselves if they find, I'm interested in this? How would they know might be a right fit or not, and or go into a different direction? Or how would they themselves decide if they were a right fit to go into research? So specifically biology. Like
Oh,
what
I
would
see.
like someone who loves routine, someone who
Yeah.
I don't know what those things were that you
Yeah.
experienced. If you could share
Um,
some of them, what a
yeah.
student might experience.
I feel like in particularly in the field of biology research and maybe a little bit in chemistry as well, there is it definitely requires a certain tenacity and patience
Mm.
and being okay with this daily routine that could almost feel like a grind. And it takes a lot of tenacity. And I do have peers from college who went on to get a PhD, but all of them would say it's a grind. Like to stick it out, it takes certain character. Um, and not, a lot of people who thought they wanted to go towards a PhD in biological sciences don't. Like they realize halfway through this is very unattainable. And while you're doing research, while you're studying and doing research and going down PhD path, you are not getting paid at all as much. And so it's a very, very, you have a stipend and all that, and you might get a little bit, but it's very low. And by the time you get a piece of paper that says PhD, it's amazing work, but you're well into like you're 29, you're 30, you're 31, depending, right? You're getting a PhD isn't just about how many years, it's about whether your research is deemed qualified for you to become a doctorate. So
Mhm.
you can be there for a short time if you're lucky, and a long time too if your research is just not going well. So it's at that point, I just feel I don't want my life to be so tied down to this one thing. And by the
Mhm.
time I finish, a third of my life, if I'm lucky to make it to like 90s, a third of my life is gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to
it
live
sounds like
more.
right. Sounds like maybe one of the qualities is like love to work by yourself. Like I'm such an individual that I want to do everything by myself and I'm okay with that and I'm just self-sufficient and I'm going to do that for years,
Right,
years and years and years, and I can be okay with that. And
right.
not everybody is going to find themselves in that position. So then compared to day in life with yoga, you're surrounded by people all the time in a class helping people. So maybe compare, lab day, yoga day.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I have to say, the people I know who do follow through and finish, they are very they can be just laser focused and just get sucked in and be okay with that. Um, and I myself am an introvert, so I like to have my own space as well. But at the same time, I feel like I'm also quite an empath, so I want and need that connection as kind of the soul nourishing, soul nurturing um, experience in my life. Um,
I
so
don't want
yeah,
to interrupt. I don't want to
sorry.
interrupt, but do you mind sharing what that is? What is an empath? Maybe students don't
Mm,
know what that
mhm.
is.
Yeah. An empath in general means someone who can really, if they see someone who is injured or hurt, whether that's physical or emotional, it's someone who can really connect at their level. Not to say that they're feeling the hurt, but they can kind of empathize with them and be able to communicate in such a way that you're not taking pity of them, you're not victimizing them, you're not condescending, but in a way that's at the level that they're feeling at the moment. Um, and for me, I think I I think that makes me kind of good at teaching yoga and teaching yoga to people with chronic pain. I can, even though I never have lived experience of chronic pain, just from what they're describing and just being in their presence, I can feel it's almost like an energetic thing that you can feel that they are depressed or anxious or very stressed out or frustrated, and you're able to find language that they can absorb. Because when you're kind of down in a state like that, it's hard to really hear and listen and take in a lot of things. So for me, that's I didn't know that was a strength of mine until I started working more closely with people with chronic pain. But I think that became a forte of mine because I used to think, oh, I always just feel so much. Like, why do I have to feel so much? Is that something wrong? And but that now in retrospect, I know that's a strong quality, it's a strong personality, and it's a strength for you to be able to connect to others on such deep level.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's important too. Like when we have that gift to be able to feel the emotions of others in a way where we can help them through something, just like you're doing in your classes. Um, what about the hours? You know, how many hours were you spending in the lab versus, you talked a little bit about like, hey, there's this hustle to being a yoga teacher where I had to go and teach all these different classes and maybe they're like an hour each.
Hmm.
And that's 3 times a day versus 10 hours in the lab. How many hours are you spending in the lab versus yoga now?
Well, so first of all, I want to differentiate between when I first started teaching yoga, where I was teaching for studios, and now that I'm owning my business, where I have a little bit more autonomy on how I want to structure my days. So back when I first started teaching more than 10 years ago, my schedule was very much dictated by whatever class schedule, class times I could get just to make ends meet. And I was starting to teach some private clients as well. And a lot of people they take yoga classes early in the morning before work and also after work. So my hours are at that time were quite um, quite irregular in the way that I will have 6 a.m. classes I'm teaching, then maybe another 7 a.m., and then I have nothing for a few hours, and then maybe something at noon, and then maybe nothing for a few hours, and then a class in the evening. And that is a very typical day. So even though I'm technically not teaching, or technically teaching maybe 4 hours or five, depending, some classes are an hour and a half, that whole day, that whole routine can feel very long at the same time. And you're also taking in commute time, travel time, depending on how far away the studios are, and setup time, cleanup time at the studio. So there's that aspect of teaching at studios. And then there is currently, now that I have an established private practice, and also that I have a child, I tend to limit my hours a little bit more. So it's quite different, but I would say being in private practice, and I've been in private practice since 2018. Being in private practice, even though you may still work long hours, because back then I also had like a 6 a.m. client and then back to back in the afternoon until like 8 p.m. and a long stretch in the middle. But you feel like at least you have some sort of control over your schedule. Whereas working in a lab, your schedule, it could be 10, 11, 12 hours, and you're on your feet a lot as well. I mean, teaching yoga, you're also quite active, but it's it's a different kind of physical intensity with being in research or kind of static and just hunched over, where yoga, as at least you're kind of moving and stretching with them. So it's a different kind of like a physical taxation. And when I was working in labs, I just felt I was kind of trapped in that schedule, the long hours. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, both can be exhausting, but I feel like the difference between, let's say, 12 hours in the lab versus a 12-hour day working with clients is that when I was working with clients in those long days, it was my decision. It was on me. So I think that was the
Yeah.
difference, just feeling like, yeah, I am in control of my own schedule, of my own life. I can always change it. And I feel like that really makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. If you feel comfortable sharing with us maybe the salary between the two, I know you touched on it a little bit, like um even the PhD aspect, right? Like or
Hmm.
going and working for a company and taking this position, you have a set salary. Moving into the thought of entrepreneurship, there's cost to that. So maybe it's an investment first, and then you start getting this salary paycheck. For a student kind of looking into the compensation for lab, okay, we could say maybe there's a certain amount of money. There's a cost to that, right? With anything, just like you were sharing, like you're hunched over, you're doing all these
Hmm.
things like yoga, I'm flexible, I'm moving my body. How would you mind sharing between the two, the compensation for someone who might be curious?
Yeah. Again, like I said, for someone who wants to go into biology research, academia route, in particular, because if you go into biotech, that's different as well. Biotech nowadays, you need to be, you need to be a coder, you need to know how to do software engineering. So that you can go straight after an undergraduate degree in biology and maybe a minor in computer science, for example. And that, you can start off with a maybe even a six-figure salary in biotech. But then if you were to go into research, then that is very, very different. And like I touched on earlier, when you're in your master's program, your PhD program, you're getting paid very little. And then when you complete, let's say by the time you're 29, 30, then you actually can start to have salary. But still, I don't know what it is now, but it wasn't high when it was like the early 2010s. Like it wasn't high. It's maybe like half or maybe 60, 70% of what, I mean, no, that's too high. 60% of what, let's say, a software engineer starting salary would be. So,
What I don't know what that is. Is it
okay.
like 100,000,
Yeah, a
200,000,
starting salary for like a software engineer probably right now would be maybe sitting somewhere around 120,000 per year. And so with that, with the research as a researcher, or maybe you become a professor, probably 70, 80. Okay. Yeah. That's my guess because I haven't really talked to anybody recently about that. But that's if I were to project from early 2010s, that's probably like what you would expect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's a sacrifice up front too. Like you're sacrificing a lot of your time and
Hmm.
energy to put the research in to get to the PhD level, and then you're going to start making money then. Versus yoga studio, still sacrifice in time, investment, risk. Do you mind sharing like a little bit about that for someone who's curious about
Hmm.
starting? You don't have to go into details on cost
Yeah.
on that, but if it's a $50,000 investment to get started, because these things take time to build, and maybe what some of those things are. Do you have to hire someone to do graphic design, or do you do that yourself for flyers for classes? Do you have to have a website? Do you
Hmm.
rent your studio versus owning your studio? Things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Startup cost. Um, so when I started my practice, it wasn't like an immediate one day thing. I mainly still taught at yoga studios. And then I was getting some private clients coming in on the side, maybe one per week, and then in a few months, two clients per week. And that was how I slowly built up my clientele until I felt ready to take that next step, meaning that I felt like I have enough private clients to replace the salary I was receiving as a yoga studio teacher, which actually wasn't that much. It was maybe 30, I think it was around like 35,000. And this was teaching like 16, 17, 18 classes a week. So yeah. So it didn't take that long for me to be able to, okay, I could, because I could charge a private client. Back then I started with $65 an hour, which already was 2 to 3 times more than what you would get paid as a yoga teacher at a studio. So it was not that hard to say like, okay, I'm just going to focus now more on private clients. And when I had enough clientele to justify for that, I actually started seeing clients in my home. We have an extra room. So I just started seeing clients in my home. So there was a very low startup cost, very low overhead in that way. As for things like web and um, logo, branding, that kind of thing, I was just asking my friends to help me back then. So I was paying next to nothing. I was just kind of bootstrapping everything myself, because I didn't have the money to pay an expensive graphic designer to do all the work and have someone to do my website. So I still use Squarespace. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a very easy kind of drag and drop. You don't need any coding experience. So I use that. And yeah, there's a little um, fee, like an annual fee for that and to pay for the domain, but it's something like $20 per year for a domain, and Squarespace was maybe like 100 something per year. So, there's a little bit of cost, but not that much at that time when I was just bootstrapping everything. Um, Eventually, I did rent my own space, and it's a little office within a bigger collective of wellness practitioners. So next door is an acupuncturist, and there's a massage therapist down the hallway. So it's a little studio that has multiple practitioners in there, and I rented starting with part-time hours, and gradually built up from that. So it wasn't like a one-time startup cost for me. I would say all of that spanned 3 years to slowly kind of build to the place where, okay, now it makes sense for me to actually find a space outside of my home, because I was getting more clients. I didn't want that, my work and my privacy, to get all muddled there.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
appear a little bit more professional as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing, like, how do you develop finding clients? Like,
Hmm.
how did that develop over time? Was it just like, hey, I enjoyed your yoga class so much. Can you help me with this one stretch that I've been trying to get into? Sure, I can help you. Like, how did that start developing?
So I was honestly, I posted on Craigslist like an advertisement for myself, and I actually got two clients out of that. Um, I don't know if it's still in existence, but there was, maybe, I think they rebranded themselves. There was a service back then called Thumbtack. And basically it connects you with professionals. Like, it could be a health coach, it could be like or plumber, like any contractor. Um, then you can put yourself up there, and people can, when they search like yoga, private yoga teacher, that's how they could find you. So I've gotten a few clients from there. Um, Eventually, I just started going to a lot of networking events, any health and wellness networking events, and joined an organization called BNI, which stands for Business Network International. And they have, I don't know, hundreds of chapters worldwide. And the idea is that you meet weekly, and it's a single industry only group, meaning that if you have, let's say, a yoga teacher, you're the only yoga teacher in that group. So you're the go-to person for everyone else if someone hears about someone else needing a yoga teacher. So I started joining that, and that really helped, just getting out there and connecting with people and sharing what I do, who I offer my services to, what kind of clients I was looking for, people with back pain, spinal injuries, um, tension from being at their desk. Those kind of people were my people. And just connecting with chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, and say, hey, I'm Elaine and I do this. I'd love to learn about your business, how I can help you, and just get to know you, because I'm new and I just want to connect with people in my neighborhood and my community. And it was very awkward, and I'm a shy introverted person, so it wasn't a natural thing for me to do, but I would literally just pull up on Google Map or Yelp, look at who's around, and cold email them and see who responds. And if someone does, then we connect. And yeah, that's a slowly building network. I think that is very, very important, because people still love word of mouth and referral from friends or people they trust. Especially now, I feel like now with, AI and everything, like people want to trust the people they know and trust and like. So the networking and connecting is, I think, a very essential and maybe often underlooked skill.
Yeah, yep. I love what you shared because sometimes we just have to be brave and put ourselves out there. And, you calling or showing up and asking the questions. Hey, can you partner with me? This is what I do, and this is what I'm looking for because I really want to help people. You're showing that you care, and then they can make that connection with you. I think that's great. I
Yeah.
want to ask you, this is one of my favorite questions, but what would you want your younger self to know? Like looking back and seeing yourself as that person who doesn't know what they're going through yet. What would you want younger Elaine to know?
hmm two things mainly. First thing that popped in my mind is don't worry about what other people think of your choices. I mean, sure, you might still be very young and confused and unsure. And yes, sometimes you do need to listen to some advices from people who are maybe older, more experienced. But you don't have to take all their advices. You can listen to them. But if there's something in your gut to say, just you need to do this or else you're going to regret it, I would say just go for it. Even if it does disappoint people. I think at the time when after college, I chose to become a yoga teacher, I was just so afraid of being judged or disappointing other people. And looking back, that was so unnecessary because now I have college peers from back then reaching out like, hey, I think what you're doing is so cool. Can I ask you about this and this? I'm thinking of actually starting my own thing in like wellness or health coach or something. Um, so yeah, you just never know. Taking that big step could be scary, but also an inspiration for other people to follow. So that's the first thing that popped into my mind. And secondly, is not to take yourself so seriously. I tend to see everything as serious, and once I decide that's it. But I feel like in your 20s, that is the time to try new things, make mistakes, fail. That's okay. I think we're also afraid of failing, and I've definitely had my shares of failures, but you learn from each of your failure and you become better the next time, especially, with social media, all what a lot of people see. And I still get in that trap as well. You see seemingly overnight successes or people just really, really achieving their goals like very fast, but we don't know the stories behind that. So it's okay to like not take everything so seriously and make mistakes, and it's all going to work out because I feel like everyone is smart, and if you're determined, you'll find a way. So those are the two things that I would tell myself, my younger
Yeah,
self.
I love that.
Mhm.
Really, really great advice. Thank you. Love both of those. Last question tonight, and a good one. I think when we think about path, we want to kind of know what the actionable steps are, right? What are some actionable steps? And you don't have to go into all the details, but what actionable steps could a student take to go into biology? Recommendations there. And then the actionable steps for health and wellness. You did touch on both of these, but as far as steps go, you talked about like undergrad or being invited into doing certain things. Should a student look for that specifically? Is it helpful or yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. If you're interested in going into a career in biology, yeah, look for any internship opportunities in any research labs. Sometimes maybe universities or colleges need interns, even if it's just like washing their um, devices and labwares and all that stuff. But you're in that environment and you're hearing them talk, you're seeing what they're doing, and again, the connection with people. You never know where the opportunity is going to come from. So if you're wanting to just kind of get a glimpse of what it is like to be in that kind of career, yeah, kind of see what internship you can get, any opportunity you get to be in the lab, and even if just observing, I think that's very valuable. And then if you want to go into yoga, for example, then the first actionable step is, if you haven't already, take a yoga class. But I'm going to assume you have, because that's something you're interested in, or something in health and wellness. Um, Luckily, there's so many people in the health and wellness field nowadays. Back when I first started, it was just starting to be a thing. Sometimes, I know this sounds a little tacky, but Instagram DMs do work. I do get messages every now and then. So if it's someone that you admire, that you aspire to be okay with reaching out. And if they don't respond, it's not a personal thing. It's not a personal failure. It's just, things get lost in their inboxes. Sometimes they're not the one handling their own Instagram. Sometimes they have someone else, an assistant, for example, that's managing their Instagram. So it doesn't mean that it's your part of failure. It's just how it is. But you just never know. You just never know, again, where the connections and opportunities are going to come from. So can't do these, make mistakes, and continue trekking forward.
Yeah, it's true. You never know who you're going to meet, what conversation you're going to have. Um, there's so many examples I could even go into myself of people that I've met. I mean, this organization was started through a connection.
Hmm.
And so, I actually thought of one more question I want to ask
Of
you.
course. No, of course.
Because you shared that first experience. You went with your mom to a yoga class.
Yeah.
What was it about that interested you? Like, did you see someone doing yoga and you're like, I want to try that? Or you heard of someone's experience? What sparked your interest to say, hey, mom, let's go to a yoga class?
I think it was yoga was beginning to just be this kind of trendy thing. This was 2006. It was just beginning to be this trendy thing, and um, I'm trying to like kind of tap into some like the emotional aspects of it. Honestly, I think at that time I just wanted to try something new. That's my decision to try. Because at that time it was my entire life at that point was very tied into school and anything that's within school. And when I saw, oh, this is something that's happening outside of school, of a class that everyone's the fitness style class that everyone's talking about, I want to go check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes just that curiosity to say, let's go explore this. I wonder why people are so into this. Oh,
Yeah.
this is why. And we just fall in love with that thing. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that you would like to share? I do want you to share how students can find you. So share your Instagram page, your studio name so that they can find you. But any last things that you feel that's on your heart that you want to share?
Um, I this might be unpopular opinion, but maybe more and more popular now. I believe our future is less about how well you did academically, like how great at math or the sciences you are, but more about how much of a creative person, a risk taker you are, especially now with more AI kind of being able to automate a lot of things that you can't eventually compete with that. They keep taking over so fast, unfortunately. But you can be a creative, you can be a visionary, you can be an entrepreneur, and that's something that nobody can take from you. I know that like not everyone's path is meant to be an entrepreneur. So even if you're not an entrepreneur, like being someone that has vision, that has futuristic thinking, that can look ahead and be bold and take the risk that no one else wants to take, I think that's a valuable, and also being able to connect with people. I think those are all valuable things. So it's going to be less about the academics. I mean, yes, those are important. You need to know the basics and foundations, but these, what they call the soft skills, I think those are going to be the strengths moving forward. So that would be my last words.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and then in terms of where you can find me, my Instagram handle is Elaine underscore yoga therapy. So Elaine is ELAINE underscore yoga therapy. And that's where you can find all the information about, you can find my website, you can find my studio information, you can find my YouTube, all right there. That's the easiest way to
Awesome.
find me. Yeah. And if you have any other questions, feel free to DM me.
Yeah, students, if you're listening and you want to reach out, please do let us know how we can connect you if you have any further questions that you'd like us to ask. And we just so appreciate you being here, Elaine, and sharing your story with us. And I think you have a lot of valuable insight, not just to your own personal story, right, which is so valuable, but to the thought process and concept of future thought too, because our society is changing. AI is coming in. And so I'm really glad you added that last little bit because I agree with you. And it's important to think about. So thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much again for having me. And it was such a fun conversation for myself as well to just reflect back on the journey I took to get here today.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. And we appreciate you sharing that because we want to have students hear more stories like this so that they can not feel alone and know that, like you said in your talk, like it's okay to take risk. It's okay to learn, and life is going to progress in a way that we're going to find things that we enjoy and they're going to come back around, just like your colleagues and friends are like, hey, now I have some questions and I want to do a few things. Maybe you have even helped them with their own pain and back and all. Like they're spending time in the lab and you're like, hey, I can help you now.
Yeah.
Those things we never know when they're going to come back around and connect. And I think that's just such a beautiful part of the journey that's so unknown, but just being open to the process is kind of where we just need to live. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.